The O'Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 12 years running.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Factor follow-up segment tonight. New poll from Rasmussen says in a matchup between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, the governor wins 43-40, but obviously many of those polled are undecided. Joining us now from Houston is Mitt Romney, fresh off the debate last night in Florida. First of all, you guys all ganged up on Rick Perry. Was that nice, Governor?
You know, it's a funny thing about debates. Everybody's fair game, myself included, as you noticed.
So when you guys all ganged up on him, did you know that was going to happen? Did you know they were all going to gun for Perry last night?
You know, you never know what's going to happen in those debates. You don't know what the questions are going to be. You've got an idea what the topics will be. You don't know how that's going to get developed. But I typically know that there are going to be some topics where they all come after me, and they did. And generally, folks tend to focus their attention on those that are doing the best in the polls, although polls at this stage don't tell you a lot about what's going to be like at the end. But, you know, Rick is new on the stage and gets a chance to explain his views. And if he does that well, why, he'll continue to have strong support. If he doesn't, why, he'll lose it.
All right, because he really got a beating last night from you, all of you guys. It was interesting to watch it. Now, there are reports that there's bad blood, and I don't mean feuding or anything like that, but, you know, annoyance. That's the best word. Between you and Governor going back to the Olympics, when you were heading up the Olympics, and he wanted the Boy Scouts to be the official greeters, and you said no because they're not 18, they can't be, and you guys got into a snit. Is that report true?
No, actually, because I didn't even know about that supposed disagreement.
Right, so that's not true at all. Not true.
No, I don't think, you know, my memory may be a little foggy, but I don't think I ever heard from Governor Perry on this topic.
Okay.
I heard about it once he got into the race because someone wrote about it, but I'd never heard from him. I do remember the controversy. Some people said, hey, why can't we have Boy Scouts as the volunteers at the Olympic Games? And the answer is, well, Boy Scouts start at age 11. And you have to be at least 18 to be a volunteer.
All right, so the media report, according to you, is bumpkum. Then there was another report that you hired, when you were the head of the Governors Association, a consultant that was working against Perry in Texas, and he didn't like that. Any truth to that?
You know, he may not have liked that. There may be a reality that there were places where we hired folks that were at cross purpose. That probably happens in the world of politics. But, you know, we're big guys, both Rick Perry and me. We understand that now and then we'll step on each other's toes. Look at us. We're all going after one another. When this is all over, we'll all come together and support whoever the nominee is. You know, are there ever any points of friction between us? Of course. That's the nature of being in a political battle. And yet we all agree that one of us has got to replace Barack Obama, and that he would be an absolute disaster to be president for another 5 years.
Do you think Barack Obama is the worst president in American history?
I'm not enough of a historian to tell you the answer to that. I can tell you that I think he's been a very poor president. I think actually his failures internationally will have perhaps even longer lasting implications for America and the world than even his failures domestically, and those, of course, stand out brilliantly. I mean, internationally, the outrage that is felt across the country for his failure is well known.
But I don't understand what failure you're talking about. He got Osama bin Laden. He's dead. The drone programs downgraded Al Qaeda's ability to do anything. He has kept most of the Bush stuff in place, rendition, Guantanamo. So what disasters overseas are you referring to?
Well, probably the greatest threat to the security of the world is a nuclear Iran.
Okay.
And Iran, the president had an opportunity to really put pressure on Iran. In my view, he faced Russia at a time when Russia was critical to this decision. Russia had as their #1 foreign policy objective removing our missile defense sites from Poland. He gave them that. This president gave them their #1 objective.
Nobody's going to remember that. I mean, that's small ball, but Iran's big. Iran's big.
Yeah, well, but my point is this: had he gotten Russia to agree to impose tough, crippling sanctions on Iran, we could have put a lot more pressure on Iran. And Iran.
Maybe you can convince Putin to do it, but Bush couldn't get anything out of Putin.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Obama. None of them.
I'll tell you one thing. I would not have given them their #1 objective, which is removing our missile defense sites from Poland, unless I got something like that for it.
You mentioned Iran. Nobody seems to know what to do with those people over there to stop them on their nuclear quest. What would you very specifically do?
Well, several years ago, I spoke at the Herzliya conference in Tel Aviv, laid out 7 steps. I'll try and be brief. But number one was making sure that we put in place crippling sanctions. Number two was communicating on the ground in Iran what the cost was to them of becoming a nuclear nation. They would be in a circle of suspects if ever nuclear device were to be tested or to be applied anywhere in the world. I'll get to the last one. Number seven is you have to have a credible military threat. Iran is going to pursue a nuclear weapon. And you have to have credible options, and Iran has to know that if they pursue nuclear folly, that there is the potential that there will be an effort on the part of the United States to remove that threat.
All right, but you know, we hear that from, I heard that from Barack Obama when I interviewed him as a candidate, and still Iran continues in its quest. Finally, how are you going to...
But what he didn't do were any of the 7 steps necessarily to actually get Iran to change its course. He did not put in place those crippling sanctions. And he hasn't put together the kind of military credibility in terms of planning or communications that would suggest to them that it's anything but a hollow threat.
All right. How are you going to convince conservatives who are suspect of you, not all of them, but some of them, because you did the individual mandate in Massachusetts about the health care? Conservatives, that drives them nuts. They say that the government, state and federal, has no right to force anybody to buy anything. How are you going to convince those people that they should support you?
Well, the government, of course, has a lot of mandates, and I know folks don't like that, but mandates kids go to school, mandates they have to have auto insurance if you have an automobile, and my conservative friends say, well, we don't have to have automobiles, and it's like, well, what state do you live in? Of course you have to have automobiles in this nation, and the plan that we put in place was one that was put together by Republicans and Democrats. It works for Massachusetts. Obamacare, however, is unconstitutional, will not work, is massively expensive. I will repeal it.
Why is it unconstitutional if Romney care isn't unconstitutional? Why is Obamacare unconstitutional?
Because there are 2 different constitutions. Each state has its own constitution.
Okay, so the state has the right to mandate it, but the federal government doesn't.
Of course. Of course, states have the right to mandate. That's why states mandate kids go to school. The federal government can't do that. States mandate that you have to buy auto insurance. The federal government can't do that.
All right, Governor, you're always welcome, and so is Rick Perry. We're trying to get him on the program, and we appreciate your time very much. Very interesting tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good to be with you.